Have you ever just caught yourself replaying that one, maybe it was that breakup that just blindsided, or that time, or maybe shadow thought you sitting there, maybe car or lying in bed, and boom, sudden hearts happen. So many people, it's like living as walking around. But here's the power. Your brain actually wired very once. How that works? Well, today we'll dive fast. They come from a video by Memory Hospital. Our mission really is to understand why these painful memories equip you with some powerful strategies to transform them from present moment crisis back into past. Okay, so let's unpack. We all experience why ones often us, while others like what you had for lunch say fade away naturally.
Well, it really comes down to your brain's most fundamental purpose, survival. When something threatens, and that could be a physical danger or a really deep emotional wound, your brain's built-in survival system essentially stamps that memory, stamps it with a giant red never forget label. The whole intention is protective, right? It's to keep you safe by making sure you remember what danger looks like, what it feels.
Okay, that makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Remember the threat, avoid it next time.
Exactly. But here's the catch. This protective mechanism, while vital, can unfortunately turn into a kind of prison because your brain doesn't just store the facts of what happened. It stores everything, all the emotions, the physical sensations, even the smells, the sounds from that moment. It's all bundled together.
Wow. So it's not just a thought.
No. Not at all. So when something triggers that memory, later on could be anything, a sound, a place, a feeling. You don't just think about what happened, you actually re-experience. Your nervous system floods with the exact same fight or flight chemicals as if the threat is happening right now in this moment.
So the brain's attempt to protect us by keeping us hyper-aware of past dangers actually ends up trapping us in them. What does that prison really look like in day-to-day life? How does that show up?
Oh, it's devastating. It really is. You start to organize your entire life, consciously or unconsciously, around avoiding anything that might trigger that memory. Your world starts shrinking. You find yourself saying no to opportunities, maybe pulling away from people you care about, avoiding certain places, or even songs on the radio. It's like a part of you is still frozen back there.
Frozen in that moment.
Yeah, constantly bracing for it to happen again. You're living in this perpetual state of high alert, even when there's absolutely no real threat present.
That sounds incredibly exhausting and debilitating. But what's actually happening inside the brain when this occurs? You mentioned wiring things differently. I know some recent brain science scanners has given us some, pretty incredible insights into this, especially with people experiencing PTSD.
That's right. And a key insight here is just how differently the brain handles these traumatic memories compared to regular ones, even regular sad ones. When you recall a normal sad memory, let's say, your hippocampus, think of it as your brain's filing cabinet. It lights up a lot. It's accessing that memory from the proper folder, the one labeled things that happened in the past. It knows where it belongs.
Okay, so it's retrieving a filed away memory.
Precisely.
Right.
But with traumatic memories,
yeah,
the scans show the hippocampus barely activates at all. It's almost like the memory was never properly filed away in the first place. Mm-hmm. Instead, it exists in this raw, unprocessed state, full of intense emotion, vivid sensory details, smells, sounds, everything. But crucially, it lacks that timestamp, that label that says, this happened long ago and it's over now.
So if the hippocampus isn't filing it as past, then that explains why a flashback feels so real, like time travel, right? Your brain isn't retrieving a story from the past, experiencing what feels like a present moment threat because it never got cataloged as finished.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It's not retrieving a narrative, it's reactivating raw data. Think of it like this, maybe. Imagine your mind is like a huge library. Normal memories are books, properly shelved in the autobiography section. They have spine, a title, a place on the shelf. You can walk over, pull one out, read it, understand it's about the past, and put it back.
Okay, organized, contained.
Right, but traumatic memories, they're like loose pages scattered all over the library floor. There's no organization, no context telling you when it happened, just raw information sites, sounds, feelings that can just blow around and hit you unexpectedly at any moment. It feels chaotic, immediate, and very, very present.
That's such a powerful image, those scattered pages, loose. So if we connect this back to healing then, the brain's ultimate goal must be to somehow pick up those scattered, file them properly, turn them from this present moment crisis back into a past tense story.
That's exactly the goal. And here's the really empowering part. Your brain absolutely can do this. It's designed to process experience. But with these deeply impactful, overwhelming memories, it usually needs some help. Some specific strategies to get those files organized and put away correctly.
Okay. Now, most people, when faced with this kind of overwhelming internal chaos, their first instinct, understandably, is often simple. Just don't think about it, Push it down, distract yourself, just move on. It seems logical, doesn't it? If something hurts, avoid it.
It seems logical, but unfortunately, it leads to what we call a cruel paradox, especially with these types of unprocessed memories. The more you actively try not to think about something specific and charged, the more it tends to dominate your thought. The classic pink elephant experiment. Right?
Don't think of a pink elephant.
And immediately, what pops into your head?
A pink elephant.
Yep. Exactly. Traumatic memories work in a very similar way. The harder you push them down, the more energy you expend trying not to think about them, the more forcefully they tend to resurface later. Avoidance might feel like it works in the short term, maybe for a few hours, maybe even days if you're lucky. But those memories are like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can do it for a while, but it takes immense effort, and eventually
it's gonna rocket to the surface, probably with even more force.
Precisely. It bursts out. Often when you least expect it or feel least prepared.
So it's not just a mental quirk, it's this active process where the brain, because it hasn't filed this danger away, keeps pushing it back into our awareness, especially if we try to suppress it. And all the while you're spending this energy trying to avoid the memory, that shrinking world you mentioned earlier keeps getting smaller, right?
Absolutely. You stop going to certain places that might remind you. You might avoid people connected to the event, or even types of people. Songs, smells become triggers to manage. And sometimes people turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms, maybe substances, maybe overworking, perfectionism, anything to try and numb or control the internal chaos. And the research backs this up quite clearly. Studies consistently show that people who continually avoid thoughts and reminders of their trauma actually end up with more PTSD and depression symptoms over time, not fewer.
Wow. So avoidance actually makes it worse in the long run.
It does, which raises a really important, maybe difficult question. If avoidance isn't the answer, what is? What's the real path forward? Again, the research is pretty clear here. The people who gradually, carefully learn to face their painful memories in a safe way tend to recover. They regain their sense of well-being, they get their lives back. It sounds counterintuitive, but the only way out is through.
Okay, the only way out is...
That sounds daunting, though, especially when these memories feel so potent, so dangerous. How do you actually get through? What are the first steps towards safely confronting something your brain has been desperately, and for seemingly good reason, trying to avoid?
That's the critical one. And the good news is there are several really powerful evidence-based strategies. We don't have to just grit our teeth and bear it. Let's start with maybe one of the most accessible tools, actively changing the story your brain tells about what happened. Because here's the thing about memory. Our memories aren't like video recordings. They aren't fixed snapshots of absolute truth.
Right, I've heard this. Every time you remember something, you're kind of rebuilding it.
Exactly. Every time you recall a memory, subtly alter it, details get added or dropped, your current mood influences it, perspectives shift over time. Memory is much more like a story that you rewrite in your mind each time you act, and that means you have some agency there. So it's not about denying the facts of what happened, but about consciously, intentionally reframing the narrative around those facts. Instead of being trapped by one fixed, painful story, we can actively work to up.
Precisely. So instead of the story being, say, I'm broken because of what happened to me, or I'll never be the same, what if the story slowly shifted? What if it became something like, I survived something incredibly difficult, which actually proves I'm much stronger than I ever knew? Or maybe instead of, it was all my fault, what if the story evolved into, I did the best I possibly could with the information and the resources I had at that very difficult time?
Okay, that feels different. It's not denying the pain, but it's changing the meaning extracted from it.
Exactly. And let's be clear, this isn't about toxic positivity or pretending the trauma didn't hurt. It absolutely did. It's about finding a more balanced, realistic, and compassionate narrative, one that doesn't sentence you to a lifetime of shame or fear or paralysis based on that past event.
That feels like a really profound shift you can start. Here's a simple, practical exercise. Write down the negative traumatic stuff or I'm permanent. Then ask yourself honest, exact. Usually the answer is a heart. You'd offer compassion, strength. Not the exercise is then to try. Extend that same compassion. Okay, it might sound terrifying, especially discussed about the pitfall, but please stay with us because it's genuinely one of the effective therapies. It's about gradual and safely approaching the memory setup. But the key word, how do you without...
That's absolutely the crucial point, and it's why this approach, known as exposure therapy, is very often done with the guidance of a trained professional. You need safety, but the results can be incredible. The research consistently shows success rates for trauma recovery, things like PTSD, can be as high as 65 to even 80% when people learn to face their memories in a controlled, supportive, therapeutic environment.
65 to 80%. That's huge.
It's very significant. And here's generally how it works. You don't just dive headfirst into the deep end of the pool. Absolutely not. You start in the shallow water, maybe just dipping your toes in, and often with a trained therapist acting as a kind of lifeguard. So maybe you begin by just writing a few neutral sentences about what happened, or perhaps talking about a less distressing aspect of it for just 5 minutes with your therapist. You build up tolerance very, very gradually.
Okay, so slow and steady. And what's happening in the brain during that process?
Well, each time you approach the memory, even slightly, and crucial, nothing terrible happens in the present. The feared catastrophe doesn't occur. Your brain learns a vital lesson. It learned, okay, remembering this feels bad, but it's not actually dangerous. Over time, with repeated safe exposure, the physiological alarm bells, that racing heart, the panic, the sweating, they start to quiet down.
The system learns it doesn't need to go into full red alert just because the memory is active.
Precise. Your brain realizes it can handle the memory without triggering a full-blown crisis response. It's a bit like exposing yourself to a tiny amount of an allergen to build immunity over time. You're carefully building psychological immunity to your own memory, allowing those scattered pages we talked about to be gently picked up, looked at, and eventually filed away rather than blown about chaos.
That makes sense. Building on that idea of refiling, the research takes us in another really fascinating direction when we look at how memory itself actually functions neurologically. Scientists have discovered this phenomenon, I think it's called memory reconsolidation, where every time you recall a memory, there's a brief window of opportunity to actually modify it before your brain stores. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Memory reconsolidation. It's groundbreaking concept. Think of a memory like a document saved on your computer. When you double-click to open it, the file becomes temporarily unstable, editable. You can change the content, add things, delete things. When you hit save, the changes take effect and the file becomes stable again, but now it's updated. Memories seem to work in a somewhat similar way.
So how can we consciously use that window?
Well, here's a way to apply it. The next time that painful memory starts to surface, instead of immediately fighting it or pushing it away, try this. Deliberately allow yourself to recall it, but, and this is key, simultaneously anchor yourself firmly in your present moment safety. Really feel your feet solid on the floor. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin right now. Look around the room you're actually in and deliberately name 5 things you can see. Ground.
And maybe even consciously tell yourself that powerful phrase, that was then, this is now, I am safe in this moment.
Yes, that phrase is incredibly important because by actively weaving elements of present moment safety and calm into the act of recalling the past trauma, you're literally updating the memory file. You're teaching your brain on a neural level to associate that old memory with your current state of relative calm and control, rather than just the original terror or pain. With repetition, the memory starts to lose its sharp emotional charge. It begins to transform.
From what? What does it become?
It changes from feeling like a live wire that shocks you every single time you touch it into just information. It becomes a story about something that happened to you. Something difficult, yes, but something that is over. It no longer defines your present reality or dictates your future reactions in the same way. It helps those unfiled scattered pages finally find their proper place in the library marked past.
That links directly to another crucial tool, doesn't it? When the past invades your present like that, maybe one of your best immediate defenses is to anchor yourself firmly, right here, right now. Mindfulness and grounding.
Absolutely. And sometimes people hear mindfulness and think it means emptying your mind or achieving some kind of perfect Zen state, which can feel impossible when you're distressed. But really, it's much simpler than that, especially in this context. It's about noticing, okay, this is a memory surfacing. It's here right now in my awareness. And crucially adding, and like all mental events, it will pass.
So not getting swept away by the memory, but observing it.
Exactly. You learn to step back just a little and observe the memory, the thoughts, the feelings, almost like watching clouds pass through the sky. You see them. You can acknowledge them. There's that feeling again, or there's that thought. But you don't have to climb aboard and follow them. You don't have to fight them either. This simple act of detached observation is powerful. It signals to your brain, this is a thought about the past, rather than reacting as if it's a present danger. That distinction is key for refiling those scattered pages.
And for those moments when you feel really hijacked, really pulled back, there's a very practical technique people can use immediately. It's called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method. Have you used it?
Oh, yes. It's excellent. Very concrete.
So when a memory tries to pull you back, you deliberately shift. Notice 5 things you can see around. Really look. Then 4 things you can physically touch. Fabric of your clothes, the cool surface of a desk, your own skin. Feel the texture. Next, 3 things you can actually hear in your current environment. The hum of a fan, birds outside, then 2 things you cough, the air itself. Finally, 1, maybe the lingering taste or inside of.
What this does almost instantly is pull your attention away from the internal storm of the memory and back to your physical senses, back to your current environment. It sends a powerful signal to your nervous, hey, look around. You're actually safe right here, right now. It's a potent way to get out of your head and back into your present reality, helping to reset that fight or flight alarm.
Okay, another strategy. Sometimes maybe the most powerful thing you can do, especially when things feel overwhelming inside, is just get the memory out of your head and on therapeutic writing.
Absolutely. Don't underestimate the power of writing. The research here is also quite compelling. Studies have found that writing about difficult or traumatic experiences, even for just 15 to 20 minutes on a few separate occasions, can lead to significant improvements in both mental and physical health down the line.
15 to 20 minutes. That's quite manageable. How does it work? Why is writing helpful?
Well, writing helps you process and organize what often feels like a chaotic, overwhelming tangle of emotions, thoughts, and sensations. It's like taking that internal tornado we talked about and laying it out in somewhat neater, more manageable sentences on the page. It gives it structure. Plus, the page is safe. You can express feelings you might never feel comfortable saying out loud: intense rage, deep grief, terror, guilt. without any fear of judgment or consequence. The paper could just absorb it.
And there are different ways to approach it, aren't there? It's not like writing a formal essay.
Not at all.
No.
You might write a letter to your younger self who went through the trauma, offering compassion or understanding. You could try describing the event in the third person as if it happened to a character in a story. That distance can sometimes make it easier to process. Or you could simply free write, just pour out whatever raw, unfiltered feelings and thoughts come up without worrying about grammar or making sense. There's really no wrong way as long as it feels relatively safe for you to do it.
And what's the potential outcome of doing that?
Many people find that as they write, their internal narrative naturally begins. Maybe they start writing from a place of feeling powerless, but as they articulate their experience, they start to connect with their resilience, their survival. The story might evolve towards, I'm still here, and look at what I endured, look what I learned. The memory starts to transform, again, from feeling like a prison cell into becoming a significant but manageable chapter in their larger life story. It becomes a testament to their endurance, not just their...
Okay, so we've talked about changing the narrative, gradual exposure, memory reconsolidation, grounding, writing. These are powerful tools. Now, here's something that might feel, I don't know, maybe even unbelievable right now, especially if you're feeling stuck in the weight of, but it really needs you. Many people who once felt completely, utterly imprisoned by their past trauma don't just find freedom. They often discover a depth of strength and wisdom they never knew they...
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, psychologists have a term for this, post-traumatic growth. Now, this is really important. It absolutely does not mean the trauma itself was good or positive or that it should have happened, of course. What it means is that humans have this quite astounding innate capacity to derive wisdom, resilience, and a deeper appreciation for life from grappling with and integrating even the darkest experiences.
Growth from the trauma, not because...
Precisely. And the research is surprisingly strong here. Studies suggest that roughly half, maybe even up to 2/3 of trauma survivors report experiencing some form of positive psychological growth afterward.
Half to 2/3? What kind of growth are we talking about?
It manifests in various ways. People often describe finding new possibilities or paths in life they never would have considered before. Many report forming deeper, more authentic, more meaningful relationships with others. There's often a discovery of profound inner strength. I survived that. I can handle anything. Sometimes people develop this deep, almost spiritual gratitude for life itself, appreciating small things they used to take for granted. And for some, there were significant shifts in their spiritual or philosophical perspectives, a new sense of meaning or purpose.
Wow. So the very memories that once held them completely hostage, the source of so much, could eventually in time become a source of insight, a reminder of their own resilience, maybe even an inspiration for what they could achieve or contribute. That's a fundamental identity shift, from maybe feeling like a victim to identifying as a survivor, and then maybe moving to something even beyond that, like a mentor or just a wiser, stronger person, a warrior forged by that experience.
Exactly. It's a complete reframing of their own autobiography, integrating the difficult chapter in a way that strengthens the overall narrative rather than defining it solely by the trauma.
Okay, so wrapping this all together, what does this mean for you listening right now? If you resonate with this, if you feel held hostage by certain memory, where do you start? What's the practical roadmap forward based on everything?
All right. Let's distill it into some actionable first step. 1, face your memory. Start incredibly small. Choose one tiny way to gently approach it instead of automatically avoiding it. Maybe that's just writing one neutral sentence about it. Maybe it's just saying one word related to it out loud to yourself in private. Start tiny. Make it feel manageable.
Okay, tiny steps.
2, practice grounding techniques daily, not just when you're triggered, but build that muscle. Practice the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, or just feeling your feet on the floor when you're relatively calm. Build up your present moment awareness so it's stronger and more accessible when you actually need it in a difficult moment.
Build the muscle one. Makes sense.
3, challenge one negative belief that the memory seems to have cemented about you. Write down that harsh belief, I'm permanently broken. Then right next to it, consciously write down a more balanced, compassionate, and truthful statement. I experienced something terrible and I am healing and strong. Juxtapose them.
Challenge the narrative directly. Good.
And 4, and this is really important, seriously consider professional support. You don't have to do this incredibly difficult work alone. Therapists trained specifically in trauma using proven approaches like EMDR, that's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, CBT, cognitive processing therapy, or various somatic therapies that focus on the body's experience can guide you through this process safely and effectively. They provide the container.
Please remember, healing is almost never a straight line. It's not linear. There will be good days and there will likely be setbacks, harder. That's not failure. That's just the natural rhythm of recovery. Please be kind to yourself through that process. Your memories, even the darkest, most painful ones, are part of your story. They absolutely are. But they do not get to write the ending. The past has undoubtedly shaped you, but it does not have to own you.
That's so key. You are not defined solely by What happened? You are and can be defined by how you choose to respond day by day. Every single time you practice one of these techniques, even imperfect, every small narrative reframe, every mindful breath, every single moment you choose, even a tiny bit of courage over avoid, you are actively reclaiming your life back from the past. Slowly, sometimes imperceptibly, the chains of those memories begin to rot. They start to loosen, maybe eventually fall away. That heavy suitcase of pain you've been carrying, it genuinely starts to become lighter.
Imagine that future for a future where the memory that once completely paralyzed you, that held you hostage, has become just that, a memory. Something that happened to the old you, yes, but something from which the new you has grown wiser, stronger, more compassionate. That future isn't just some pie-in-the-sky possibility. It's absolutely attainable. It's waiting for you. Your life, the one you want to live, is often just on the other side of facing that. So what new memories of freedom, of empowerment, of connection, of joy are you ready to start creating? The door out of that prison, it might take courage to turn the key, but it's time. Time to walk through and reclaim.
And maybe sometimes just acknowledging, okay, this is where I am right now. This is my reality, and I'm ready to take just one small step. Sometimes that simple acknowledgement is the first and maybe the most powerful step toward freedom.
Yeah.
You really do have this within you. You've got this.